FIFA World Cup 2026 full match schedule group stage fixtures. The 11th of June, 2026. Total match 2. Match number 1, Mexico vs South Africa. Match number 2, Korea Republic vs Czechia. The 12th of June, 2026. Total match 2. Match no 3, Canada vs Bosnia and Herzegovina. Match number 4, USA vs Paraguay. The 13th of June, 2026. Match number 5, Haiti vs Scotland. Match no 6, Australia vs Turkey. Match number 7, Brazil vs Morocco. Match number 8, Qatar vs Switzerland. The 14th of June, 2026. Match number 9, Côte d'Ivoire vs Ecuador. Match number 10, Germany vs Curacao. Match number 11, Netherlands vs Japan. Match number 12, Sweden vs. The 15th of June, 2026. Match number 13, Saudi Arabia vs Uruguay. Match number 14, Spain vs Cabo Verde. Match number 15, Iran vs New Zealand. Match number 16, Belgium vs Egypt. Tuesday the 16th of June, 2026. Match number 17, France v Senegal. Match number 18, Iraq v Norway. Match number 19, Argentina v Algeria. Match number 20, Austria v Jordan. Wednesday the 17th of June, 2026. Match number 21, Ghana v Panama. Match number 22, England v Croatia. Match number 23, Portugal v Congo DR. Match number 24, Uzbekistan v Colombia. The 18th of June, 2026. Match number 25, Czechia vs South Africa. Match number 26, Switzerland vs Bosnia and Herzegovina. Match number 27, Canada vs Qatar. Match 28, Mexico vs Korea Republic. The 19th of June, 2026. Match number 29, Brazil vs Haiti. Match number 30, Scotland vs Morocco. Match number 31, Turkey vs Paraguay. Match number 32, USA vs Australia. The 20th of June, 2026. Match number 33, Germany vs Côte d'Ivoire. Match number 34, Ecuador vs Curacao. Match number 35, Netherlands vs Sweden. Match number 36, Tunisia vs Japan. The 21st of June, 2026. Match number 37, Uruguay vs Cabo Verde. Match number 38, Spain vs Saudi Arabia. Match number 39, Belgium vs Iran. Match number 40, New Zealand vs Egypt. The 22nd of June, 2026. Match number 41, Norway vs Senegal. Match number 42, France vs Iraq. Match number 43, Argentina vs Austria. Match number 44, Jordan vs Algeria. The 23rd of June, 2026. Match number 45, England vs Ghana. Match number 46, Panama vs Croatia. Match number 47, Portugal vs Uzbekistan. Match number 48, Colombia vs Congo DR. The 24th of June, 2026. Match number 49, Scotland vs Brazil. Match number 50, Morocco vs Haiti. Match number 51, Switzerland vs Canada. Match number 52, Bosnia and Herzegovina vs Qatar. Match number 53, Czechia vs Mexico. Match number 54, South Africa vs Korea Republic. The 25th of June, 2026. Match number 55, Curacao vs Côte d'Ivoire. Match number 56, Ecuador vs Germany. Match number 57, Japan vs Sweden. Match number 58, Tunisia vs Netherlands. Match number 59, Turkey vs USA. Match number 60, Paraguay vs Australia. The 26th of June, 2026. Match number 61, Norway vs France. Match number 62, Senegal vs Iraq. Match number 63, Egypt vs Iran. Match number 64, New Zealand vs Belgium. Match number 65, Cabo Verde vs Saudi Arabia. Match number 66, Uruguay vs Spain. The 27th of June, 2026. Match number 67, Panama vs England. Match number 68, Croatia vs Ghana. Match number 69, Algeria vs Austria. Match number 70, Jordan vs Argentina. Match number 71, Colombia vs Portugal. Match number 72, Congo DR vs Uzbekistan.